Great afternoon. I'd like to call to order today's Finance Administrative Committee meeting. Are we in compliance with FOIA, Zendaya?
Yes, sir, we are.
Kindly call the roll, please.
Absolutely. Mr. Stanford?
Here.
Mr. Ames?
Here.
Mr. Alfred?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
Thank you.
Next, we have the approval of our minutes from January 17th. Any adjustments there?
No, moved and submitted. Second.
If you would call the roll, please.
Certainly. Mr. Stanford?
Yes.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mr. Alfred?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have appearance by citizens. Are there any citizens that have signed up to come before us today, Zendaya?
Yes, sir, we have Mr. Skip Hoagland. Mr. Hoagland?
Skip? Good morning, Skip.
Skip Hoagland, Windmill Harbor. Alex, let's keep this simple and civil today. You are not in compliance with FOIA. To say you are is simply not true. Do you deny this? Again, you have no financial or audit background and no clue why you were chair of finance, other than the best way to hide finance. Are you going to force this chamber and Kerry Corbett, the Low Country Golf Owner Association, tied to Bill Miles' tax scam, to keep refusing all tax accounting and access to all their records under FOIA and the South Carolina Nonprofit Corporation Act laws? Alex, you and all council are chamber members. Therefore, you are taxpayers' proxy, and also you are committing quid pro quo. Do you deny this? You must provide all this accounting to me and the lawyers. The Supreme Court also said you have to do that. Alan Perry said he saw 80% of all the chamber accounting. Is this true or is this a lie? Bill Miles and Kerry Corbett refuse to provide all this and comply. The town must file a lawsuit against the chamber to get this information. The Supreme Court is going to force you to do that. If you don't, you are in violation of my tax FOIA and, again, the Supreme Court ruling who said you must provide the chamber tax use accounting. To me and to you and to everybody in here, are you going to continue to violate me and the Supreme Court? Answer, yes or no. It's that simple, Mr. Ames. It's that simple, Alex. And Mr. Alford, Mr. Stanford. Do you all know this new information? Bill Miles controls in the chamber all these following legally operated websites developed in Canada. Our tax money is taken to Canada, not locally, not respecting our businesses locally, not even respecting our country. This is insanity. And then he takes these websites to sell advertising that he controls and owns, not the taxpayers who funded these websites. So here it is, HiltonHeadIsland.org, HiltonHeadGolfIsland.com, VisitBluffton.com. They all are illegal, criminal, violates the IRS 501-C6 tax codes. It's unfair competition to local media, draining local ad pools. I hope Duffy Stone does something about this. I think this needs to come right to to your office, Mr. Stone. I think it's about time you speak up too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hoagland. Anyone else? Thank you. We'll move along to our new business. First item is going to be the discussion on our affiliated agency funding request applications for fiscal year 2024. We have received applications from all of the agencies, had some time to review them. We've asked that each of the applicants spend within 5 minutes of making a presentation. I would also offer that you leave enough time within that 5 minutes for us to have some dialogue and questions from the dais. So first up, we'll have Mitchellville Preservation Project.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lola Campbell, and I am the current board chair of Historic Mitchellville Freedom Park. I am standing in for our executive director, Ahmad Ward, today as he is away at a conference. So we'll just start with where Mitchellville has begun and with some facts. 160 years of history and 10 years of public investment. I'd like to highlight how Mitchellville actually aligns with the council's values. We are a culture-based visitor attraction, and that aligns with your strategic plan. We are a living example of our plan's core values of inclusiveness and economic diversity. And we're telling the story of our island's deep and unique historic roots and people. So let's take a look at the numbers. By the numbers, in our park, our QR code scans have shown that 36 states and 12 countries have been reached. And some of those have been states that in the past we have not been able to reach. So we're happy about that. Last year for Juneteenth, our celebration brought 1,346 visitors, and our Holiday Nights and Lights has become a staple with our town and our community, and that brought 2,800 visitors. I'm also very proud to share Mitchellville in the media. The New York Times recently named us as one of the 8 places across the U.S. that illuminates Black history. Newsweek and USA Today have had us in there as a great multicultural destination. And then Travel and Leisure did an awesome article in their February issue called Isle of Freedom, which highlighted Mitchellville and the Gullah culture over Hilton Head in general. I'm also proud to report that we've received approximately $6.3 million in funds from individual donors, governments, and foundations. They've committed to our goal of raising $22 million during our private fundraising capital campaign. State funding has given us $1.2 million, which will go to infrastructure, ghosted structures, and our church reflection area and wayfinding. We are very happy to have received $2.5 million recently from the Mellon Foundation. This grant has been secured to support the implementation of site components consisting of the Freedom Plaza, classroom and lab building, our interpretive trail, and necessary infrastructure for our future interpretive center. We also have received $50,000 from RBC Heritage Classic Foundation to support the return of our MAGIC Youth Leadership Program for high school students. For those of you who don't know what MAGIC stands for, it's modeling our ancestors to generate influence and change. This is a great program that's giving greatly back to our community. So the bottom line here, we are a nationally recognized historic destination and we require world-class operations. As you may know, it's very difficult to get funding for operational and administrative expenses, and this is what our application is for today. Our request is not supported by any other grant or funding, and Town Council does have a history of supporting administrative requests. So we would really appreciate your support with this affiliated agency grant. Thank you. If you have any questions or discussion, we're welcome at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Alfred?
This is in addition to ATAX money that you also receive?
Yes.
Mr. Stanford?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. We're all very proud of what the Mitchellville project is doing. It's a great draw to our community. I'm wondering, of the almost 5,000 people that you described that had gone through there and been counted, do you talk to them about not only where they're from, but why they are there?
We mainly, well, in our data that we collect from them, we get where they're from, but just standing in the park and of course being at programming, even when I go to the park myself and just see people out there, I do ask, how they found the park and why they're there, and most are there because they've seen it advertised somewhere, or someone on the island told them about it, or they're staying at the West End, which West End gives a lot of information on Mitchellville, and they're looking for a place to have a more nature-specific experience outside of beach. So, then friends and family also invite a lot of members from other states to our Gullah Celebration Month in February. So we see a lot of people coming from different places during that time.
Yeah, I see this as a great cultural tourism activity here, and I certainly support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ames?
I support the organization and the request. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate the opportunity and the presentation, and we will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next, we will have, you already stand in Coastal Discovery Museum. Come on, Rex.
So thank you very much for allowing me to do this presentation. The Coastal Discovery Museum has been supported by the town since we opened at Honeyhorn as an affiliated agency. We've done that through a memorandum of understanding, and it's one of the things that allows Coastal Discovery Museum, our buildings and our property to continue to be open free of charge to the general public, so there's no barrier to access. And we reach 130,000 people a year. A lot of those are tourists. Our tourist number is 92%. And I fund most of our operations with a request for ATAX funds. But we also do a lot of education of local residents. Every year we have about 10,000 programs for school kids, individuals served. And a lot of students come from multiple times to the museum for those school programs. And so our request is for supporting that part of our operations because we feel it's really important. It contributes to the whole educational experience on the island for residents, and it allows us to not only serve individual students, but also in the summer to do teacher training and many other things on our property. And so our request is for 102,000 this year, and I will open it up to questions from the committee.
Thank you. We'll start with you, Mr. Stanford.
Yes. Rex, you're doing a great job. The museum is doing a great job. It's an invaluable opportunity for us to continue to support the growth of the museum, and I support your application.
Thank you. I'd like you to do my presentation next year.
We'll see.
Mr. Ames.
Just one question, just out of personal interest. What age groups the children do you normally have visiting?
You know, there's quite a range, but I would say our biggest area served is elementary school, probably 4th, 5th graders. We get a lot of because they're studying history and environment, but we have done a lot of outreach to try and get middle school and high school students involved. And one of the projects that we're working on upcoming is archaeology based, and we hope that that can attract older school students as part of that project.
And I fully support the direction of the local education. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Alford.
Could you discuss a little bit the need for the substantial increase in the request this year versus last year?
Yeah, part of that request is we sort of reevaluated salaries in an effort to retain qualified employees. And so the cost for us to hire, to continue to employ individuals resulted in an increased percentage within the request as an affiliated agency. I do not expect that percentage increase to continue ongoing. It was a cost of living adjustment to salaries at the museum.
Virtually the entire increase relates to employee compensation then?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you, Rex. I will say out loud that we are embarking upon a new format here when it comes to affiliate agencies. Last year was our first year launching, so I know everyone is trying to get adjusted. There's a little asterisk next to your name
Yes.
because you missed the deadline, but we'd appreciate in the future that we are ahead of time as far as bringing the applications to us, okay?
I will guarantee you that that will not happen again, and I would also thank Zendaya for reaching out to make sure I was okay when she didn't get my application.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll have Hilton Head Island Recreation Association.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I went with a one-slide presentation because I always mess up with the Flickr, so I'm good right here. So those are some photos of our activities that we have at the rec center. My name is Frank Soul, the Executive Director of the Hilton Head Island Recreation Association. This year, our request to the town is for an increase of $24,462. Our overall budget that we have planned for FY24 is $3.3 million. The association will be funding the remainder, and that's a 6.5 increase to our budget overall coming up. The reason for the expansion is fairly simple to see. If you look up in the left-hand corner, our adaptive recreation program has exploded, and we're really excited about that, from working with Pockets Full of Sunshine to our own programs. This weekend we have coming up, we have an adaptive recreation fishing out at the Sailing and Rowing Center. That's just one of the many things that we've been offering and expanding on. And below in the lower right, as you see the young man fishing, he's in our after-school program. We have an outdoor recreation program, after-school program, and that's a couple days a week, but we've been taking the program out of the Sailing and Rowing Center, so we're pretty excited. And those are two program areas, not to say about things are not going very well. Youth soccer and other sports seem to be coming back. We're back after COVID. And just kind of looking at numbers, 2 years ago, we count our numbers as participant visits. We had 190,000 participant visits. Last year, we went to about 325. This year, we're over 500,000. So not only are we ahead of where we were before COVID, but we've grown after that. And we knew that was going to happen with the opening of the facility too, and the fitness component that we've been able to offer. So the additional $24,000 that we're asking for from the town this year is really kind of tied into program expansion, salaries, as Rex mentioned, trying to keep our employees there, and then just the cost of general doing business. So 3 minutes or less.
Thank you, sir.
You stay in a 5 minute.
Okay, questions, Mr. Ames?
Frank, thank you very much. Needless to say, the rec center is incredibly important to our young families on the island, and I support it because of that, but I also think you're doing a fantastic job for the entire population. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good? Yeah. Mr. Stanford, go ahead.
Has your staff increased as well? I assume that it has to have.
Yes.
And so that's going to be part of the reason for the increased allocation that you're asking for.
Yes.
And we should expect possibly a similar increase moving forward, assuming the programs continue to grow and you need more staff.
Yeah, I'm already anticipating that we'll need an assistant for the outdoor rec program just because of the growth that we've had in the first 6 months of it and being able to expand upon that. And that's just one of them. And I failed to mention as we look at the seniors there, but our senior program numbers are starting to come back too as people come to the center. So I anticipate that staffing that may have gotten taken back by COVID is now going to be evaluated and brought back.
Keep up the good work, Frank.
Thank you.
Mr. Alfred?
No questions.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Be in
thank
touch.
you.
Okay, next we'll have the USCB Event Management and Hospitality Training.
Good afternoon. I'm Carrie Olivetti, and I am the director of the USCB Center for Event Management and Hospitality Training. Phew, quite the title, I know. So let me just share with you a little bit about our programs, and I'll move quickly. So our focus at the center, we educate hospitality professionals, we help with volunteer management, and we help with event incubation. We do the Island Ambassador Program, and our Island Ambassador Program currently has 3 seminars: Island Knowledge, Island Culture, and Island Ecology. We hit a huge milestone this year, and we certified over 3,000, so we hit the milestone of 3,000 certified Island Ambassadors. So we're very proud of that, reaching that milestone, and we continue to grow. So during the fiscal year 2022, we had 67 seminars. We educated 331 Island Ambassadors that were certified, and we had 1,155 educational hours. And over 90% of our evaluations were positive. So far this year, we are at 37 completed seminars. We're at 362 certified Island Ambassadors, so we've already met our goal and exceeded our goal in our funding request for this year, and again, over 90% positive evaluations. We're on track this year to possibly have the most certified Island Ambassadors in the fiscal year yet. So we're hoping. To date, since we started the program, these are the numbers. Again, we're currently at 3,173 Island Ambassadors. Now, it's a little low because we still have some evaluations being processed, so we're probably closer to about 3,300. We also do a quality management initiative, and this is our secret shopper program. So we go out with hospitality partners, and we help them define what a valuable experience is. What is a quality experience here on Hilton Head Island? And once we determine what those standards are, then we go out and see if they're meeting the standards. And so we work with our students and we work with our faculty. So it's a win-win for our students and for the partners. Our students get valuable learning experience, and our partners get valuable feedback to ensure that everyone that visits their establishment has an amazing experience. So last year we had 45 reports and 16 presentations, and to date this year we're at 24 reports and 4 presentations. And again, we're on track to reach our goals for this year's funding request. And of course, we have volunteer management, and this is where all of our students get to head out and they get to volunteer at our local festivals. We had students out at Wingfest on Saturday. I have several students heading out to help with Winefest this Saturday, and of course, numerous students will be out at the Heritage. So we had 75 hours in last fiscal year, and we're at 54 so far this year. We value those at independentsector.org and provide feedback in regards to what the value of those are. So to date, we have valued our service learning hours at over $293,000, and we've helped raise over $1.6 million for local charities working at the events. We also helped incubate some new events. We worked at the Rec Center on Burgers, Bacon, and Barbecue. We did Sandbox at the Stables with the Sandbox. And of course, we're excited. We were part of 350-30 when the town celebrated, and we're excited to be a part of the new celebration coming up for the 40th anniversary of the town's incorporation. And last but not least is Finnegan Sharing Shack. And so Finnegan Sharing Shack is one of our students' ideas that she worked so hard to get it implemented, and this is beach recycling. And so Bethany McDonald had this vision that she brought to fruition, And so she is out, and so when all of our guests come to town and they go and they buy all of their equipment and then they can't get it on the airplane, then they can drop it off at Finnegan Sharing Shack. We clean it up, and then we recycle it, and anyone that's coming to the island, we hand it out for free. We even get repeat customers, and so sometimes they pick up their boogie board for the week, and then they go use it, we bring it back, we clean it up, and we give it out again. So we have, so far in the, I guess, year and a half total that we have been open, we have recycled 2,963 items, so close to the 3,000 mark. Must be our number for the year, 3,000. So this year, once again, we had Clemson come in. So in 2017 and 18, the town requested that we have an evaluation done of our programs. And so we sent out a request for proposals, and we ended up using Clemson University. I know, it's hard to say. Clemson University did the evaluation for USCB. And so we went back again this year because we felt it was time to once again have our programs evaluated. And so these were some of the findings they found of our Island Ambassador program, just some of the benefits. It was really interesting, other information that they found, just retention of the information that we teach in our program. So we had individuals respond to their survey that took the program in 2015 and still retain the information from as far back as the 2015 classes. So they also gave us some recommendations for improving our program, and they're all great recommendations to changing it up a little bit from island knowledge, island culture, and island ecology to island history, island tourism, and island ecology, and trying to refocus it based on the information retention that they found. And so we'll be working on that to make improvements to our program. So it's great information that we received. We are funded through Town Code, and we have been honored to receive this funding so that we can give back to the hospitality industry and ensure that all guests have an amazing experience here on Hilton Head Island. And this is our budget calculation for this year. So, and I will pull it up and see if y'all have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Alford, any questions?
Do you charge for any of the services or programs that you provide?
We do not.
So your sole funding is from the town and ATAX?
Yes, it is.
And can you discuss a little bit the need for the increase over 20% from last year?
So we receive 5% of the local A tax, and so as the A tax continues to increase in accordance with the statute, so does our funding.
I'm asking about the need to make additional expenditures this year, not the revenues.
Okay, so our programs have grown. As you saw, we reached over 3,000 Island Ambassadors, and we continue to teach more and more classes. We continue to go out with more and more of our quality management initiative. We're back in again with Finnegan Sharing Shack, and we're hoping to continue to grow that program. So the need is continuing to grow our programs.
Thank you.
Mr. Sanford.
Thank you. I'm very proud of the Ambassador Program. I think you're doing an outstanding job taking volunteers and helping our tourists, obviously our major industry here. So this is outstanding. I do have a question though. I assume occasionally you get a negative report from a visitor here. What happens when you get a negative report on a particular service or a restaurant?
So we share that with the restaurant. So again, if it's I'll do two things. So if we get a negative evaluation in our Island Ambassador program, every class we teach is evaluated.
I'm not talking about the ambassadors, I'm talking about the service.
Oh, absolutely.
The quality of service or the quality of the food that's being served.
Oh, every now and again, we do get a negative report. So that's shared with our partner. So if we're working with Palmetto Dunes or we're working with the Surge Group, they get that information. And so we get very detailed information. We will know who the server was. We will know the date. We will know what meal was being served, and we'll be able to specifically identify what was the concern. So they can go back and have a detailed conversation about what occurred and make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Is there further follow-up after that?
Only with us going back in again with the follow-up visit with the quality management program.
Thank you.
Ms. Daines.
Thank you, Karen. Good to see you.
Good to see you, David.
A couple of questions. When students go out to one of our events and poll people, are they being paid at that time?
So we do not have, the festival research is not included in
it is.
SEMTRA.
So service learning hours are or are not a part of what we're talking about?
No, service learning hours are just our students going out and volunteering. So they may be
Okay.
working with water, they may be setting up, tearing down.
All right, okay. I've had the pleasure of working with some of your students, and I really applaud their involvement and their enthusiasm. So I think on the student side, I'm very enthusiastic, but I've been watching this program now for the years that I've been on council, and it always leaves me a little bit unsure as to the real value of what we are doing and what we're investing in. So I'm going to look at the Clemson findings with more detail, because I am a little uncomfortable that we are investing in this program, and I'm not sure we're really getting back the information that council needs to be able to feel confident that we're getting our benefit. A question related to that. If you were to look at your employee ambassador profiles, what types of employees participate, and in what percentage, might you say?
I don't have those specifics, but I'm happy to get those for you, because we have those through our Continuing Edge, who does all of our evaluations. But we have across the board, so we do a lot with the bike walk ambassadors. We do the Surge Group, and with restaurants and all different levels, managers as well as servers. We do a lot with the Marriott Vacation, and we do international, and we do front desk, recreation, loss prevention, housekeeping, anyone that would even be a touch point with any of our guests. We have done some with spa and individuals employed in the spa. So we hit every area
The reason
of
I asked the
hospitality.
question is, if I'm a chef, I'm probably not going to be able to use that information in business, whereas maybe afterwards. Whereas if I'm at the head of the desk somewhere, then that becomes almost pivotal. So I wonder how you select the people who are going to participate in the program.
And so we don't select, we work with our partners, and our partners make that selection for us. And so the partners determine who will be coming to attend the course. And in most instances, the individuals who are attending our course are being paid to attend the course. So it's
Okay.
an investment by
Okay.
our partners.
All right, thank you. Last comment I'm going to make, and again, this comes from having watched this program over a number of years. I'm a little uncomfortable with the commitment on the part of the town to invest 5% in this program on a year-to-year basis without having better metrics on where that investment is going to go. And so I think council needs to reflect on that commitment as a sort of carte blanche. So I'm just giving you that as a personal opinion that I think we need to look at cooperatively. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we're open to any conversations or further conversations that you'd like to have, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of the Clemson report. It's incredible
please do.
information. Yes,
Please
I'll send it
all
to
of us.
I'll
Yeah,
send to
yeah.
all of you, because they have some great, and I think they'll have what you're looking for in regards to the metrics of the value of the program.
Thank you. That would be very important.
Absolutely.
Olivetti?
Yes.
One question. We find ourselves in a situation here on Hilton Head where we are, in some cases, desperate for a qualified workforce. So I can appreciate the partnership between some of the businesses on Hilton Head and the program. I'm curious to know, is there opportunity to infiltrate into our school system, the local high schools, because so many of our students want to remain on Hilton Head and have a good living doing so. Any thoughts or ideas there?
So we teach the Island Ambassador as part of the CAPE program at the high school. And so, in fact, that's where we hit our 3,000 number, was at the Hilton Head High School. And so we are incorporating that into the program.
Okay, and the other high schools on Hilton Head, any connections there?
We have not made any connections with any of the other high schools, but I'm glad you said that because we'll reach out.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Mr. Troy, I would ask that you work with USCB here to see if we can pull together the questions that have been asked by Councilman Ames. And I would also include a look back from the inception of the program and their budget as to how it has fluctuated in a comparison to the current code of the 5% allotment. As I can appreciate, past councils having the vision to have this program in place is definitely a need in our community. But I think it's upon us now to take another look to make sure we're in lines, okay? So if we could perform that exercise, and we will discuss further at our next meeting before moving this forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Kate.
Okay, next we'll have Pamela Breeze.
Good afternoon, and I'm Mary Lou Franzoni, the Executive Director of the Low Country Regional Transportation Authority. And it's my pleasure to come before you again this year to talk about our request and our services. I will try to go quick. 5 minutes goes by quick. To show some of what we do, the commuter buses on the bottom right, one of our trolley riders. We do have a plan for the airport service. We did a consultant study, and we'll be presenting that to the Public Planning Committee April the 13th. So we do have that completed. This is a map of our commuter routes and well, really all of our route services. And you can see we bring people in from all of the outlying counties to jobs more in the urbanized area. The other thing I would like to point out, two things that I'm very proud of, and one is we have a state transit conference and rodeo where the drivers compete on an obstacle course, but maintenance also competes with the other transit agencies in the state on a maintenance competition, and our goal has always been to win. We got up to second, but we've never won it, and I want you to know this year we won the maintenance rodeo, and we're really proud of that. We only have like 4 guys in the shop, and they beat all the big guys, so we're very proud of that. And this is the trolley season for last year. We ran from the Saturday before the Heritage till the day after Labor Day. And we had 43,000 passengers, which is a really great number. I have to say in 21, I think the island was very overwhelmed and we had in the 50,000. But that is really the anomaly because we kind of went back to the regular amount of tourists. And so 43,000. My marketing guy has some formula that says that replaced 14,000 vehicle trips. That's an estimate. And we also won a marketing award through the American Public Transportation Association. We won a first place award for our Trolley Rocks campaign last year near Labor Day. And we'll be doing that campaign again. And so again, those awards are not easy to get, so it was really good. We're going to start this year April 1st. The Saturday before the Heritage is April the 8th, which is right in the middle of Easter weekend, so it's just easier for everybody involved. We're starting this the Saturday of April 1st. We did add a stop by request to Lucky Beach, which also will serve the Adventure Golf on Follyfield Road, the old Carrabba's. They asked if we could stop there. We're going right by, and we evaluated it, and it's a safe place to stop, so we added a stop. We also cut back the time on Friday and Saturday night till 11 p.m., and we did that because we did an evaluation. The drivers kept telling us no one's riding from 11 to 12. Well, now, surely people are riding. You know, they can go out and have a drink and ride the bus back. Well, it turns out those people aren't ready to go home before midnight. And there really wasn't a lot of people riding. So we cut it back to 11. We're going to use those extra few hours on all of our fireworks Tuesdays to go ahead and have all the buses come back. So if anybody didn't get on the trolley, we'll let them know. There'll be another bus 30 minutes or so and come back and get them. So we're going to reallocate those hours. We actually send all our drivers through the Island Ambassador program, and they can't say enough about how much they learn. We have new drivers every year, it seems, and it really gives them something to talk to the tourists about, and they do tell them all about things on the island, and they love it. We're getting ready to do it next week, and they're really excited about it. We have the video monitors up, and we do have them closed captioned, but we so that they're not disruptive to people that maybe don't want to hear that. And we promote all of the cultural items on Hilton Head, all of the festivals. And we are part of the parades. We were in the St. Patrick's Day Parade. We come and help out anytime we're asked. If the town asks us to take around council members or any kind of a tour, we come and do it without charge because you're our partner. We do charge for the shuttles for the Wing Fest and those kind of things, just so that we do recap the cost of it. So I don't think that, talking about the island airport service, I've learned a lot more about airlines and airports and what's going on here. And just from what I've heard, I don't know that I'm the expert on it, but it seems that all the people we had in the airport in 2021 was because we had a lot of regional jets flying in, and that the airlines with their pilot shortage have pulled those pilots to the bigger planes, and that, this is my understanding, and that the demand is not going to be here this year. And I may not be exactly right, but that's what I've gathered. So this summer may or may not be the summer to kick off seasonal airport service. Here's how we do our budget. We do urban budget separate from the rural budget. And so on the urban side, here's a list of, this is pretty detailed, of all the categories we are budgeted in and the percentage that the federal government pays and the local match pays the other side of it. So as you can see, the percentage, I'm going to tell you, it all changed because of the census data. And the town of Hilton Head did pretty well with the percentages, whereas both Bluffton and the unincorporated Beaufort in the urban area grew. So that's helpful for Hilton Head. The thing I want to point out is all of our costs have gone up. The costs of fuel, particularly all the parts, pretty much everything we buy costs more and we have to wait for it. But fuel has been pretty big. And so our request is basically the same service, but additional funds. And this is our rural service, and it's almost a $3 million budget. You can see the breakdown of the funds. We do ask Hilton Head to help us out with $50,000 because the outlying counties, we ask them to pay their share, and they struggle with that, and a lot of times don't pay the whole share. And so, being that they're bringing all the jobs to the urbanized area and to Hilton Head, we have appreciated the contribution the town has given in the past. Any questions?
Thank you. Mr. Stanford.
Mary Lou, I'm always impressed with your presentations. You've got your arms around this project. I'm interested in how you see the trolley service growing in the near future.
You know, I think the biggest thing we need, and I've been in conversation with some folks over a dedicated funding source, and I believe that we're going to be on, if the next transportation tax actually passes, a portion of that is going to come over to the transit. And I think that at that point is when we can grow, because it's a heavy lift without grant funding, and we only get so much to buy buses and to hire more drivers and to do all that, buy more fuel and to do everything it takes to grow. But I do see we'll do the presentation of the airport shuttle, but I look at that and it goes to 25 different destinations on the island. And as we did this exercise and it's all mapped out, there's so many places that people work and they go and they come and go from that we're not serving. And so I can see a similar process where I like the consultants came in, they really had stakeholders, they took surveys, they came up with a lot that I wouldn't have come up with on my own. So to poll the entire island, figure out what makes the most sense, and then try to be equitable throughout the island as far as what the transportation is. But I see us needing dedicated funding to really get it kicked off.
Understood. I think the $50,000 contribution from the town is worth every penny for providing the daily workers to come down here and provide services to us. Thank you.
Mr. Ames.
Thank you. I think I can postpone most of my questions till you come before the Public Planning Committee in a few weeks. But just out of curiosity, to piggyback on what Mr. Stanford just asked or made a comment, how many employees are you transporting to the island every day?
You know, you had asked me that one time before, and we count them by trips, and it's all broken up. And I went out one day and didn't let anybody off the buses, and I counted them. And we got a count from everybody, and it was like 200 people.
Okay, thank you very much. And I was pleased to hear that your drivers are being educated by the Ambassador Program. I think that's an ideal place for that to happen. And I will commend you. Your drivers are always very hospitable and polite and entertaining in many cases. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Alfred.
Could you please clarify for me the amount of your request, which I gather is in two parts, one for the rural and one for the rest?
Correct. And how we ask for local match, as you can see on those charts, the part that the grants pay for, we spend the money and then we get reimbursed, but we don't get reimbursed at 100%. And so what's really happened with this year's request on the urban side is the math changed with the percentages, but really favors Hilton Head over the others, and our costs went up. They gave us more grant money across the country because everybody's costs have gone up. And so when the costs go up, the match goes up. And we really haven't changed a lot from last year to this year, but the costs have gone up.
And how much is your regular portion going up?
I think the entire request has gone up approximately 50,000.
50? Mm-hmm. And that's in addition to the rural part?
That's the entire thing. Well, we asked for 50 last time. So it's 50,000 additional on the urban side and in addition.
Another 50 for the rural side.
Right, that's correct.
It's a 100,000 increase.
Well, we ask for the 50 for the rural side every year.
All right, thank you.
You good? Okay. Thank you. We look forward to further discussions as you come to see Councilman Ames. And as you're there, if you could, please share that equation or formula that you're using to determine the congestion relief. I'm very interested in how you come up with that.
I will find out for you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next we will have our 14th Circuit Solicitor.
How are you? Good afternoon. Duffy Stone, I'm the 14th Circuit Solicitor. Jeff Kidd is our Chief of Staff. He actually created the presentation that you have, or the paperwork that you have, and I brought him on to answer any of the difficult questions that you may have for me. But let me first of all, we're not asking for any additional funding than what the town has given us in the past, but I wanted to come and do two things. One is, personally, thank you for the support you've given me, but second, also kind of give you an overview of what it is that you're funding. And I think the best way for me to explain that is something that I got from a friend of mine a few years ago. Her name was Amy Wyrick. Amy was the district attorney in Memphis, Tennessee. And she was telling me about a letter that she had gotten from a prisoner. Now, if you've been a district attorney for any length of time, you've gotten letters from prisoners. Generally speaking, they're not very nice, but we've gotten lots of letters from them. This one was different, though, because this guy had spent several years in the Tennessee Department of Corrections, and he sent her a letter right after she'd been elected and said, you know, congratulations for your election, but let me tell you what I see from my end of it. He said, I've been in the Department of Corrections for several years, and the people that I deal with and see on a regular basis fall into two categories: those that struggle with antisocial behavior and those that embrace it. And the trick that you have as a district attorney is figuring out which is which and how you deal with them differently. It was the first time that I'd ever heard somebody really summarize very well the difference between our multidisciplinary court and our drug court programs and our diversion programs and our career criminal prosecution unit. And those are the two things that this town has funded over the years, and they're both programs that we have a great amount of pride in. The first concept is for the people that we deal with that are struggling. They may include people who are drug addicts, they may have alcohol issues. If we're dealing with juveniles, sometimes we're dealing with people who have parental issues or peer pressure issues. The reason we call it a multidisciplinary court instead of a drug court or a veterans court is because we have the same team that does all of that. And generally speaking, we take the defendant and we first try to figure out what the problem is, what the issue is, instead of pigeonholing them into you must have a drug issue or you must have an alcohol issue. So it's called a multidisciplinary court. Most people know them as drug courts. Some of them know them as veterans courts. We have veterans, obviously, in this community, some that have gone off to serve our country and to protect our freedoms that come back with mental issues and addiction issues that they didn't leave with. And so what our drug court program seeks to do is hold those people accountable for their crimes, but at the same time, give them the treatment that they need to lead successful programs and to leave our program kicking whatever their issue was, whether it was a drug or an alcohol addiction or what have you. And go back into business, lead productive lives. That is something that we've been particularly proud of, that we've been doing for quite a while, and your funding is essential to keep that going. The second end of that, though, however, is the other group of people that we deal with. And these are the people that embrace criminal activity. And these people are what we refer to as our career criminals. We have a career criminal unit that we have had since 2009 that is focused exclusively on those people. These are people that if they get arrested, they go to prison, they go to jail, they go to prison, doesn't matter where they go. Once they get out, they're going to commit another crime. And these are people that you have to treat entirely differently than you treat that group that struggles with antisocial behavior. Our career criminal team has been rolling since 2009. It has been I think, a very successful program. When we first started it, I told the prosecutors we had to create a sort of a unique situation and that we had to get experienced prosecutors that were willing to and able to try cases. Those are not cases that are plea negotiated. Those are cases in which you prepare the case and you try it. They started this program in 2009, and as of, I believe, yesterday, when I asked Jeff this question again, at this point, we're up to 471 career criminals that have been prosecuted through this program out of 477. That's about a 92% conviction rate, which is something we're particularly proud of. But again, it's because the prosecutors on this team have time to prepare, and they prepare these cases for trial. Both of these programs, I think, are essential in keeping the community safe. I think both of these programs actually do two entirely different things, but I think without one or the other, it's not really what we deal with on a regular basis. So again, I'm not asking for any additional funding. I want to thank you for the support you've given, but I also understand maybe a couple of you will come by and visit the office soon. I look forward to doing that. I enjoy showing you what we do and how we do it. And if there's any questions, I'll be glad to answer those now, or I'll answer them when you get to the office, or I'll make Jeff answer them. Either way.
Thank you. Ms. Davis?
Solicitor?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate, and thank you, Mr. Kidd, for the well-documented application. I really appreciate it. I feel that this is an area that I'm ill-equipped to really judge. I have to go on your word about the benefits of the program. One question I would have, I think I probably know the answer to this question, is it seems as though Hilton Head is contributing disproportionately to other municipalities in the area. Is that because Hilton Head has more criminals, or is that because Hilton Head is recognized as having some additional money that others don't have?
It's been the thing about it is, I will tell you this. The interesting thing about the prosecutor's office is it's always somebody else's responsibility to fund it. If I'm in the state legislature, which I am regularly talking about funding for prosecutors, they're like, why isn't the county funding it? When we talk to the county, they're like, why aren't the state funding it? And so the various municipalities, everybody I go to, I've yet to have anybody say, we've got plenty of money, how much do you need? And, let us cover it. It's been something that's developed over the years. We get funding from Bluffton. We get money from the state. We, in many cases, we've actually taken this multidisciplinary court concept and expanded it into Colleton, Jasper, and Hampton counties by use of federal grant money, because we have to figure out a way to cobble together enough money to cover it. The short answer is it's neither one. You have a substantial amount of crime, obviously, on Hilton Head. You have a substantial number of criminals that are either committing crime in Hilton Head because they're from here or because they come here. It's the thing about being the circuit solicitor and seeing it from the perspective I see it. We do not, despite the fact that it's Hilton Head Island, we don't live on an island. I don't know of a single group of people that are committing, especially the career criminals, that stay in one jurisdiction. They don't. The same people that are causing havoc here cause it in Ridgeland. The same people that cause it in Ridgeland cause it in Colleton. And so it's very difficult for me to sit there and say, all right, well, you guys need to pay this because this is what it doesn't work that way in my life and in what we see. And that's really the best way I can describe it. I think it's important that you understand what the program does and why it does it. I will tell you that none of your money is wasted. The drug court program and the multidisciplinary program has never been a program that has made money. But I think if you have somebody that you see, and I would invite you to come to one of the graduations, when you see somebody that's kicked a heroin habit or an opioid habit, and they turn around and they all of a sudden become a father, and they all of a sudden become somebody that works in the community and lives in the community and becomes a part of the community, I don't know how you put a price tag on that. But I've seen it.
Appreciate the answer. I also wanted to thank you for your partnership with Hopeful Horizons.
They are, and let me tell you, from what, and again, I hope some of you come to the office, because what I'd like to show you is our Victim Services Center. We gave Hopeful Horizons office space in our building because, especially in the area of domestic violence, we have a number of victims of domestic violence that will come to us. They will not necessarily want to prosecute the case, but they need those services. And they are now meeting with us. When we meet with a victim on domestic violence, Sarah with Hopeful Horizons is in there with us, and literally being able to hand that victim those services and that's just for domestic violence. That doesn't include the sexual assaults and the forensic interviews as well. So they are a tremendous partner, and quite frankly, as is Low Country Legal Assistance. They're in the building as well.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
Mr. Alford.
Is there a formula or guideline of any kind by how much each of the various communities, Beaufort and so forth, that Hilton Head contribute?
No, sir.
How is that figure determined as to which jurisdictions pay how much?
There is no formula on that. It's the question of how much we can cobble together to get the job done that we have to get done.
You mentioned earlier that people ask, why isn't the county providing money? Why isn't the state providing money? Outside of South Carolina, are you familiar with other states?
I am.
And is most of the funding in those cases provided by the state or the county?
I've served on the board of directors of the National District Attorneys Association for, at this point, I think 10, 15 years. I've actually been the past president of the National District Attorneys Association, and I will tell you that every jurisdiction is totally different. North Carolina, for instance, the district attorneys there are totally funded by the state, except in Mecklenburg County, in which Charlotte actually contributes additional money because they recognize that the district attorney's office there doesn't have enough money to produce the prosecutors they need to have. So it seems that every state is different. Whether or not the equation is on caseload versus population, that seems to be different. There is not anything particularly consistent about any of that. But I will tell you this, I have met with the Speaker of the House in South Carolina, and we're actually pushing the concept that what has happened in South Carolina is that the state generally has left all the funding to the counties. That may be okay in a county like Beaufort County, but out of 46 counties in South Carolina, I would guess that about 35 of them are actually over the poverty line, that they have higher poverty than the average. So what's happened is the responsibility has been left to the counties, and the counties in some cases, in many, many cases, simply can't afford it. So that's something that we've been trying to address at the state level as well. But you know, to answer your question, there is absolutely, as far as I can tell, no uniformity whatsoever in any of the funding going out throughout the entire country.
Mr. Stanford.
Thank you. Duffy, I've heard you explain the career criminal program before, and I'm very impressed with that. But I have another concern which is not unique to me, and that is juveniles committing crimes.
Yep.
It seems to me that is ever growing. Your job is prosecution. I understand that. It's not necessarily prevention, but I'm wondering what your ideas are about how we can meet juveniles committing crimes.
You know, it's interesting, and I was actually came in here today and I was talking to somebody and they said, what's going on? And I said, well, honestly, it seems like every case that I am working on, and I've got 4 of them that are getting ready for trial in the next several months, involve a child of some sort, and either a child, which I would consider anyone under the age of 18. Of course, at my age, a lot of other people seem to be children these days, but people either committing the crimes or being victims of the crimes, or in most cases, both. You know, I prosecuted John Duncan on Hilton Head. John Duncan was 17 years old, and he shot and killed another 17-year-old, and they were in a fight over marijuana. Neither one of them had substantial criminal history, so we had not dealt with them before, but John, he certainly made up for it. We've got a shooting case right now that I can't tell you much about because I haven't tried it yet, involving sets of juveniles, all of which were under the age of 18, all of which were operating and using semi-automatic weapons and literally just doing drive-by shootings, and they came out of nowhere. They didn't have prior criminal histories. All of a sudden, they jumped onto the scene by carrying assault rifles. Part of what this money goes to is not just the prosecution of those people, but also the juvenile multidisciplinary court, the juvenile programs that we're trying to do something. What's interesting is when we first started, when we took over the drug court, there wasn't anything for juveniles. It was just adults. And it seemed to me that, you know, you're spending this money to deal with 30-year-olds. How about spend some to deal with 13-year-olds so they don't become the 30-year-olds? We started putting that program in juvenile court. Before we did that, I went and visited the drug court, the head of the drug court in Charleston, who did juvenile. And I asked her, I said, Judge, tell me, does it work? And she said, no, it doesn't work. I said, why not? She goes, because we pigeonhole these kids. She said, whatever you do, don't pigeonhole them. The reason we call it a multidisciplinary court is because the first step in dealing with the juveniles is let's assess what their problem is. Let's assess what the issue is. And so I think we've got to do a better job first of recognizing when we do have access to them in juvenile court, what's the real issue going on? And it's not always drug addiction. It may be a choice that they're using drugs instead of working with other, being in a play or playing on a sports team. Could be a number of those issues, but I think we've got to do a better job from a juvenile standpoint of assessing that early and trying to get them into programs, into assistance that gets them out of that cycle before they get to be the career criminal that I'm dealing with at age 30.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Stone, I'm going to follow up on Councilman Stanford's question, and I'm not looking for a response here today. I'm simply trying to plant a seed. Mm-hmm. When we start to talk about the issues that we have with drugs, I always relate back to the first time. Because you don't become a drug addict unless you tried it once.
Right.
And this is probably a bad analogy, but as I think about, the movement that we've made in healthcare with a huge focus on preventive maintenance, okay? And I can appreciate that once we have a juvenile in the system, we start to touch and agree as to how to deal with it. But I'm more interested in how we touch and agree before they get in the system.
Right.
And I know it's a tough one, but I just want you to marinate on that one a bit.
It is extremely difficult. And I will tell you something that somebody told me, again, another district attorney from another state. He said, if you think about it, we are the default system. And I was like, I don't understand what you mean. He said, we're the default system. When all the other systems fail, they come to us. So every problem that is out there in another system that doesn't work, that's how it gets to me. I'm with you. I would love to be able to cut that off at a much earlier stage so we don't ever deal with it. I don't understand how a 17-year-old that has never been in trouble before is shooting up another 17-year-old's house with a semi-automatic firearm. I don't get that. And I don't know that any of us do. How do we get to that earlier at an earlier stage? That's a challenge that I think all of us have, anybody involved in any of the systems.
Sure.
And I would agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that should be a priority.
Well, I look forward to unpeeling that a bit more when we come visit your facility.
Please do.
Okay? All
Good
right.
to see you. Thank you all very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, next we'll have our Beaufort County Economic Development Corporation.
Good afternoon. Thanks for allowing me to be before you today. I know our application has an asterisk. It's my failing. I failed to file it on time, and I hope the good work of our agency isn't tarnished by my failure. With that said, over the last 5-6 years, Hilton Head has contributed some $125,000. $15,000 the first few years I was in this position. Last few years, 25, and this year we're looking for an increase to 40,000. Just to give you an idea of what we're looking to do, one is over that same period of time that the municipalities had contributed 500,000, Beaufort County has contributed $5 million to this effort. The results of our efforts have been $320 million invested across the county, 1,450 jobs averaging $48,000, and some $15 million coming into Beaufort County companies to expand and grow. A lot of that from the Commerce Department. On Hilton Head, those investments add up to $47 million, 244 jobs, averaging $53,000 a year, and some $2.6 million coming back in incentives. Just to give you an idea, in the near term, we have some $29 million of projects by name of Bones, Cloud, and Comida, potentially in the wings for Hilton Head. Again, $29 million, 107 jobs, over $50,000 a year. So our passion is, one, creating tax base. The other is transforming people's lives. I think opportunity is a great way to transform people's lives, as you just heard from the legal community. I will add that early next week, we have 85 international visitors that are going to be staying at the Westin. The Chamber of Commerce, Bill Miles and his staff, is going to make sure that there's a greeting in those rooms, one, welcoming them to our area and pitching future investments. They're here for a rail conference, but all international investors. I should add that in addition to the $29 million, we have a hotelier that's looking at making a $60 million investment on the island. That lead was given to us some 4 years ago by Bill Miles and the chamber staff, and they're in a due diligence stage, so more to come on that. I'm trying to honor the 5 minutes. Right now I'm at 3 minutes. I should add that keep in mind, you've given this organization $125,000 over the past 6 years. Grants to companies, just to give you an idea, L3 Harris, when we competed with Orlando and Pittsburgh to keep them on Marshland Road, using county funds, we gave them a grant of $100,000. The bank project, which is looked as manufacturing by the state of South Carolina, some $75,000 to that project, and Ag has, and the county took action on it yesterday, some $50,000 coming in from Ag, the state Ag Department, because they're using South Carolina products to make their brew. RX Industries, another $25,000. And we've also funded Blackwoody. The reason I go through all of this is that I want you to view economic development as an investment that has had a bona fide rate of return. And again, we're trying to demonstrate to the county that the communities are interested. That's the reason for the additional funds. Those funds will probably relieve a lot of pressure on my young colleague, Charlie Stone, who does a great deal of all of the work, to be honest. He does a lot. We're looking to add a marketing and a investor relations position within the organization. We've done all this with 2 people, and we had momentum going into COVID. Right now, I believe that momentum is here again. We have some $150 million of near-term projects in the queue right now, meaning that most of those, I believe, will be announced no later than September of this year. And I'm at 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stanford.
I think $125,000 invested by the town generating $47 million worth of economic development here and these good-paying jobs is money well spent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Ames?
I hesitate to say anything because we're talking relatively small dollars, but this is a 60% increase, and I presume you're not increasing other municipalities or county contributions by 60%. Why are you picking Hilton Head this year?
I am not picking Hilton Head, so you assumed wrong. This goes across all 4 municipalities.
60% increase?
$15,000, yes.
Oh, no further question.
Mr. Alford?
How do we determine the benefit to Hilton Head in particular? You use a lot of figures, but I don't know what those dollars mean if you quote 290,000 or whatever figure for something else. How does it show up in Hilton Head?
For instance, let's just take the bank building. It's going to be called the bank. It's Side Hustle is going to move from Arrow Road and expand on Pope Ave.
Yeah.
It's a $15 million investment. That's how we count it.
$15 million that you are adding to the project or contributing to it?
No. We've only assist Waterson Brands at their Bluffton location with their expansion here on Hilton Head, and with an expansion that'll go on in Bluffton in the next couple of years. So it's only assisting them through the process and then identifying statewide incentives that help them move forward with the deals on Hilton Head. What we can also do, and we do, is using a Hilton Head resident, Don Klepper-Smith, who lives in Hilton Head Plantation. We do economic impact. So when we look at what the bank project or the Side Hustle expansion is going to mean to Hilton Head, we have an economist go through, and the ripple effects of that project in the next 3 years will be $46 million. So it's a $15 million investment, and economists look at it as a stone being thrown in a pond and what the ripple effect is in the economy. That one project has a ripple effect of $46 million. And I didn't mean to throw around numbers, but I wanted to use my 5 minutes as efficiently as possible.
Your involvement with the old Bank of America building is essentially time and staff work?
Yes.
Not financial assistance.
I outlined that as well. Using county job fund funds, we're given that project $75,000 in incentives to expand.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. O'Toole, I just asked that you, just to go a little deeper on Councilman Alfred's questions, if you could work with Mr. Troyer and the projects that are actually on Hilton Head, if we could just give the performance of that ripple effect as you have described it over a period of time, the 46 million, I think, for the bank project.
Okay.
Just the others, okay? So we'll have that information as far as a metric moving forward.
And just to make sure I understand, you'd like the details on each project and then run them through the economic model?
The ones that are on Hilton Head.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay, and last but not least, we have Hilton Head Habitat for Humanity.
That's it. Thank you. All right, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity this afternoon. I am Brenda Dooley, and I'm the Executive Director for Hilton Head Regional Habitat for Humanity. And I thought I would start out by introducing you to some of the kids who are living over at the Glen, where we last partnered with the town to build, in this case, 32 of those 35 homes, and where they will live and grow and thrive. At the simplistic look at the basics of the Habitat program, it's really 4 main components that make up how our homeownership program works. And we are blessed to have a strong support on Hilton Head in the areas of volunteers and donors who support our program and who are asking me all the time, when are you going to be building on the island again? We also have families who are very interested in being here and living and working on the island. As you can see, we selected 5 in our last go-around, and those 5 won't be on Hilton Head because we don't have land at this time on Hilton Head. So that's the piece that we're missing right now. We have land in Ridgeland, Hardyville, and Estill, and that's where we'll be going next. So we know that we have challenges with workforce here on the island, and partly, large part, that's due to housing, that there just isn't the housing there for the families that we're serving. And so we feel like we have a solution to that we can build both single and multifamily units for those families. We can do it with that support that I mentioned earlier with the donors and volunteers that we have that are ready to help. And on an acre of land, we could probably do 8 to 10 houses if we did the multifamily, which we haven't done before, so I don't know exactly what that number would be, but obviously would be more. The town has done a study that shows that 40% of the island's household are cost burdened, which means they're paying more than 30% of their household income. And if you look at the lower income families, that number goes higher. We set up the mortgages that we do with our homeowners so that they're not paying more than 30% of their housing, their income for housing, which includes their principal that they repay back to Habitat and their escrow for taxes and insurance. And although we've most of the time looked at larger lots, we can also look at smaller, some of those infill lots that might be available that aren't as desirable to the traditional for-profit developers. And lastly, the town has established their framework. We would like to help you get that moving, move the needle on that and actually get some things done. Our ask is a big ask, but I feel like it's a low-risk ask just because once we have land, we take on the rest of the responsibility. We do the fundraising to build those houses. We have the volunteers to build those houses and get them going as quickly as we can. And it allows those families to be here, to live here, to work here, to grow here. Our ask is a big ask, but if you think about it in terms of what the impact would be, this is a long-term solution. For the families that we're serving, it impacts them generationally. and for the town, it provides a long-term solution to our needs. And thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Alford, questions?
This new request for 500,000, is that anticipated to be an annual request in the future?
I think we can take that 500,000 and make a successful project out of it, that we would want it to be a long-term situation, yes.
And would it be fair to assume that you would not request a drawdown until you actually had property to purchase?
That would be the idea, yes. Like, right now, it would be hard for us to go out and shop, knowing how fast the market turns over. When something comes up, it sells very quickly. So we can't go out and look, really, until we have the money in hand and can make an offer quickly.
Have you done any preliminary looking that would suggest
We
whether
have,
there are
yes.
parcels that you would be interested in acquiring?
We have done some looking, but again, once they come on the market and it becomes public, they sell very quickly, so.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Ames?
Afternoon.
Hi.
I think all of us up here support Habitat. That's certainly not the issue. Is this 500,000 for land in the future? That's what you're talking about?
It would be for purchasing land.
Okay. So the choice would be the town buy a piece of property. That would serve the same purpose?
Yes.
Okay. Out of curiosity again, if you had 2 acres of ground that was available to Habitat and you had, I'll pick a number, 20 houses, how long would it take you to fill out that neighborhood?
Well, as you know, we have to, first, it depends on the infrastructure that has to be done.
The infrastructure's in, lots of
Awesome.
ground, you're ready for construction. How long does it take you to build out 20
So it's
homes?
a fundraising issue, but we are ahead right now in fundraising, and we generally are ahead in fundraising, so we keep up very well. I think a couple of years, we could do that.
10 a year?
Right now, we do about 6 to 8 a year.
Okay, all right, thanks. And how close are you to understanding the higher density work product in terms of your normal work programs and volunteers?
We have been talking with other affiliates that are doing it. We have a set of plans from another affiliate that we are looking at. I think we can be up and ready to go with that very quickly with their support. And we've also talked with a local for-profit developer who could help with that.
The only other thing I would say is that last year's council made a commitment to put $1 million in the budget for workforce housing. I'm presuming that's a multi-year commitment. So 500,000 is a significant amount of money in relationship to a town-wide program.
And that's a number we came up with just looking at what the market was at the time that we were filling out the application and what we thought we would have to do.
But I think it's fair to say that it is completely open to conversations with this council to deal with your issues and to find solutions. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Mrs. Stanford?
Thank you. I greatly admire Habitat. I have worked on Habitat houses. It's a good feeling, and it's wonderful when you see those families participating and then moving in. So there's no doubt but that we support Habitat. The concern we have is just writing a check for $500,000. There have to be controls on that. But it occurs to me that we are working very diligently on a public-private partnership model to provide workforce housing. Those would be rental units as it stands right now. But I don't think there's any reason, if we found a sufficient piece of property, where we could do mixed full-time ownership as well as rentals. And so I would like to see these ideas blended into the public-private partnership model so that it's not that we don't trust, but we have to be very diligent and careful with expenditure of public funds. And so I would like to have more discussions with you about exactly that along with some expertise from our staff about how best to implement that. So more to come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. The only request based on the comments from my colleagues is I understand that you have identified some potentially smaller lots, and they may not be available anymore. I understand that, but just that history of your fact finding and whatnot, if you could share that with Mr. Troyer so he can then share it with us, that'd be great, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that concludes the presentations. I will open it up for public comment, but before I do so, want to make sure that everybody is understanding that we will not be taking action on this today. We are a meeting behind because we canceled our last month's meeting, so we will have discussion around the information that Mr. Troy will be bringing back to us and make decisions at our next F&A meeting. Public comment.
Great, thank you. All aid tax funds to all recipients must be accounted for, full accounting. Alex, the marketing plan submitted by Bill Miles and Ms. Pernice is a lie and it's a fraud. It's simply an attempt to try and trick unknowledgeable counsel to continue this town to keep funding millions for the private chamber illegal operations and tax scam. Alex, no one has seen where millions have just disappeared handed to Bill Miles with zero oversight or accounting. Why are you not complying? I assume Perry is the only one claiming to see the accounting, like past lying council members Harkins, McCann, and Lennox, who did the same. The marketing plan has zero proven performance metrics. Alex, how do you know this chamber is needed and responsible for 2.5 million tourists? The fact is you don't, nor does anyone else. The fact is, with no illegal chamber, CVB, ATAX funded DMO, tourism would remain the same and 70% visitors repeats for the last 20 years. Fact is, the chamber marketing plan is a fraud. The Chamber of the Year is a fraud. How do you get the recognition if it's a criminal enterprise? The fact is technology, social media, Facebook, local search, local residents and guests, second homeowners, word of mouth, and independent marketing efforts of all local businesses provide tourism and more than we need, and they do it for free. Let me repeat, it's free. When was the last time you booked a hotel or a restaurant with the chamber? How about never? Alex, I ask you in this council to stop the chamber tax scam and robbery of millions of our tax funds or prove I am wrong. I'm just the messenger. I don't break the law. Can you tell me why you voted recently to give Bill Miles $350,000 more tax funds when he refuses to show what he did with these millions already issued to him? Is this the way this council operates their personal finances? What a mess we're in. Alfred, Ames, Brown, Stanford, why did you do that? Why did you vote for $350,000 to Bill Miles? You know, I want to thank Duffy Stone for being here today. I'm glad he's listening to this, and I hope that he will act, because this is the largest nonprofit tax scam in the history of South Carolina. It's not just the Hilton Head Chamber. It's the Myrtle Beach Chamber. It's the Charleston CVB. It's the Beaufort Chamber CVB. It's the Black Chamber. It's every one of them that are ATAX funded. They're not showing us where the millions and millions and tens of millions have disappeared. It's your fiduciary responsibility. You don't have to like me. I don't want you, just respect me. You don't have to like my presentation. You don't have to like the way I speak, but you must act. My message is clear, and you're not doing your job. And I'm so glad Mr. Stone is here to take this up to him and the Attorney General, Alan Wilson. Thank you so much.
Any other public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none. Before you go, Mr. Ames, I was going to ask, if there's no objection, I'd ask if the committee would amend the agenda moving forward so that we can hear from the DMO next. The other agenda items will be staff related, so I'd like to move them ahead.
Great.
Okay? Ms. Ames, you had something?
Mr. Gruber, a question for you. Is there something either in the municipal code or Robert's Rules of Order that says that public comments are germane to the previously discussed item on the agenda?
There is nothing currently within the town's code that speaks to that matter, particularly as it applies to committee meetings. We do talk about time limits and decorum rules with regards to public comment. I'm not aware of something regarding it being germane to the item at hand.
Thank you, Mr. Ripley.
Okay. Moving forward, we will ask that the chamber come forth.
Can I ask a question on the preceding matter?
Oh, sure,
Make
absolutely.
a comment on the preceding matter, which relating, actually, I can make it later. Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
We will be taking on a presentation from our DMO. We will be making another attempt at more discussion at a later meeting. But I just wanted to take a moment and give the council members here a chance to make some opening statements as far as our discussion is concerned. We have enjoyed this relationship with the chamber over the years, and definitely understand the hard work that has gone into how we market Hilton Head. And I view these discussions as just simply sharpening our tools, okay? And definitely conversations that need to be had. And when it comes to the budgetary, which we can't get anything done without money, we understand that. But I think this committee has been charged from the full council to start to hit the reset button as to what the actual amount of cost are related to how we market. Okay, so we can budget accordingly, okay? So I just wanted to plant that seed before we move forward and give my colleagues an opportunity to make any comments along with that. I'll start with Mr. Stanford.
Thank you. I too appreciate the work that the Chamber has put into promoting our tourism industry. But I can say, and I've said this before, that I'm troubled by the marketing plan being presented to the town without asking the town in advance what it wants and what it expects. I see great growth in cultural tourism, health-related tourism, and other areas which are fairly new in concept, and we need to be promoting those. I know that you're not looking to promote tourism during the summertime. I understand that you're looking at the shoulder seasons, and that's healthy, and I want to see that continue. But I do think that you need to come to the town manager and others seeking what input they have, what goals they have, and because the town manager is the CEO of this operation. And so it is important to do that. So I am cautious about receiving something from you without you asking what we want. Thank you.
Mr. Alfred.
As I have previously stated, I think the Chamber does an outstanding job and is a very good organization doing a lot of very good work. And my concern has generally been they're doing too good at their job. But let me ask you a procedural question that I think would be helpful for how the town and the council in particular approaches your requests. Right now, you come in at one time for the basic 30% A-tax fund and at a different point of time in the year for supplemental funds. Personally, and perhaps for other members of council, I think we could understand it and deal with it better if we didn't have two different requests coming in. So I would be interested to know what type of steps you think might be taken so that we only are reviewing one overall budget at one particular time of the year. It's not something I have to answer today, though. It's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Alfred. Councilman Hayes?
I'm going to wait for the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
And if you will, this is for later. It was also sent to you a couple weeks back, but it is the attachment, but we printed it on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So again, my name is Ariana Pernice, and I am here to represent the Hilton Head Island Bluffton Chamber of Commerce. I oversee the destination marketing organization for the chamber. And on behalf of the organization, I will hopefully be able to present this to you and answer any questions that you might have. This one. I have made printouts also. The printouts that you have are the executive summary. Councilman Brown, when we originally spoke several weeks back, you had asked for kind of preliminary efforts of where we were with our marketing plan. We felt that was best articulated and executed within the executive summary of our marketing plan. So that is what was also sent to you, but we've also printed it, and we also have those for other council members as well as the mayor today to leave behind. But those were sent to the town. So as the Destination Marketing Organization, or the DMO, for the town of Hilton Head Island, we are charged with driving awareness and connecting visitors to this beautiful destination, but also our community and our community businesses. I think it's important to understand and to talk about at length that the Chamber of Commerce has been in partnership with the town for as long as I've been here and well before that. And I think that comes through when we are approaching our planning, when it comes to tourism, when it comes to our initiatives as an organization. And I think this slide does a great job of articulating that in terms of our approach. So when we think about tourism, we understand that through the lens of the destination or our community first. So residents, community, and businesses. When we look at the town of Hilton Head Island, we have many pieces in place to help ensure that we're checking in with one another, that we understand the priorities. So that comes through on the contract, the strategic plan that you have in place as the town, and your comprehensive plan. Councilman Stanford, when you had mentioned that we need to take the time to ask and understand what the priorities of the town are, I feel that our organization does a great job of understanding. We are always open to doing a deeper dive, to learning more, but we have been in lockstep with you through our plan, through our initiatives that led up to that effort, to building out our destination management plan, which is a 10-year vision for tourism. And every workshop that you have been we have either been watching or physically in the building. So we are listening, we are tuned in, and we are prioritizing the things that you're being set forth for our efforts regarding tourism. So I think you will see that come through not only in this current plan, in the previous plans, as we've worked together to establish those priorities, and as they've changed, we've tried to ebb and flow by keeping, though, an understanding of what are drivers of tourism overarching, but also weaving in the opportunity to explore new opportunities. And as things emerge within the community, bring those forward as well. So we will continue to do that in this plan, and we've listened very closely to the workshops that you've recently had and the priorities that have changed and been set forth. We have also taken those into account. Within the Chamber of Commerce itself, we have established and looked and worked very hard at putting forth a community cornerstone plan. If you recall, back in probably 2 or 3 plans ago, we started really putting pen to paper regarding this community cornerstone plan, having a cornerstone. What does that mean? And you'll see that that terminology come throughout our conversations regarding our efforts of tourism. And Destinations International, our governing body for tourism, has really set forth those efforts in establishing the priority of having that cornerstone plan. Really, in the simplest form, it is ensuring that you have the #1 priority of your community first and foremost regarding tourism. Are you aligned? Are you taking into consideration their priorities? Are you being responsible with tourism? And that's what this plan sets forth. In addition, we have our marketing plan, which the cornerstone plan is woven into. We have our internal strategic plan, and we have our 10-year management plan or vision for tourism. Again, we had just kind of worked through this, but that visual of the comprehensive approach. So we put the community cornerstone plan out to your right, my left on purpose, because it does take that sense of priority. It is the #1 piece, and working through, and again, we did not do that in a vacuum. We did that by listening again to the priorities of our businesses, our residents, our community, looking at trends when it comes to travel and tourism and bringing community first. We worked very closely with the staff here in these chamber, here at the staff at the town. And so we brought those forward. We've weaved those into a plan that will be put forth into the actual marketing plan that's proposed that complement the management plan, the internal strategic plan, and our marketing plan. So again, I can't really emphasize enough the importance of this community cornerstone plan and how it really complements all that is being worked on and done as priorities and initiatives that are being set forth by the town and the community itself. In addition to the governance that we've spoken to a bit earlier in the slides, I wanted you to see the comprehensive wheel, if you will, of checkpoints and efforts that are put forth for checks and balances. So as the DMO, Destination Marketing Organization, we have our Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors. We also have a Marketing Council. That Marketing Council is has people representing our cross-section of tourism businesses here on the island. And we meet on a regular basis, and they are the ones that help ensure that we're putting forward a comprehensive plan that meets all those efforts that we spoke to on the slide previously. We do annual independent audits. We also have government review at the state level with SCPRT, with Turk, also here locally with Town Council, and our ATAX committee. We are accredited by Destinations International, and there were less than 200 organizations that have that accreditation. And it is a rigorous process. As you all have gone through that accreditation process yourself, you understand the detail that goes into that. But as we work together and we educate one another on all those priorities, I thought it was important that we talked about the funding flow. How are we funded as a DMO? A majority of that comes through the accommodation tax dollars. We use this example. I love a visual. Hopefully this helps for others as well. The Smith family travels to Hilton Head Island on vacation. Their home or villa or hotel that they stay in includes an 11% tax. As that tax is pulled through for their stay, 5% goes up to the state of South Carolina. Another 5% comes back down, and 1% is collected from the county. That 11%, that 1% is that new green space sales tax. 3%, which is broken out to beach renourishment and town public safety, and then the 2%. The 2% is where the DMO allocation of 30% comes from. But first, before that happens, $25,000 of that goes to the town of Hilton Head. With that new total, another 5% is given to the town of Hilton Head Island. Again, 70% of that remainder is given to the town of Hilton Head Island for town tourism approved initiatives and supplemental grant opportunities. Then at that remainder, we have 30% that comes to the DMO for marketing approved initiatives and out marketing efforts. And so that is the process in which funding is collected and in which it flows. We have worked closely together on who we are targeting in the out markets, both domestically and internationally. We're going after the affluent traveler. That has been something that we have focused on at length and ensure that we are casting a net, but casting that net very broad. And how are we catching that 150,000 to 250,000 household income? We're doing that through targeted marketing, through messages that serve those affluent travelers, that entice them to come visit our destination during need timeframes. We understand that 55% of them have an undergraduate degree or higher. They have a propensity to travel, and they love to do that throughout the year, 2 to 4 trips actually, and they're staying at length 7 nights. They're skewing a bit more male, but that is just a quick anomaly, but we still have faith in the fact that our female is the decision maker, and we're working very closely with our economic impact efforts to make sure that we're keeping a close eye on this effort. But again, we're focused on the family traveler, our regional markets, affluent traveler, and the millennial travelers. We've looked at this wheel many different times, and this wheel really touches on the fact that who we are as consumers has really changed over the course of time. As a consumer, and I'm saying take ourselves out of the seats that we're currently in, but just what are we doing when we're sitting at home, when we're digesting information from streaming devices or TVs? We usually have multiple pieces on. And so when we're looking at that, we as the marketers, we have to ensure that we're reaching you on all those different touch points and that our attention span as consumers is much shorter. And with that, it's, okay, do I have 3 seconds to do this, 2 seconds to do this, 3 seconds over here? And so we're really working with an always-on approach, trying to ensure that when we have those 3 seconds, that we are getting the most valuable information to them when they're making that decision when it comes to travel and coming to Hilton Head Island. So here is just that wheel that really articulates everything that we're doing 365 days a year, 24/7. This is a newer slide that we haven't publicly shown before, but it's one that has been in the works for quite some time. And it comes through a lot of conversations, a lot of listening, and a lot of understanding of how we want to approach tourism moving forward. We think it's very important, as well as our marketing council really layered in their opinions and their priorities in terms of how we should approach travel and tourism going forward. And we're using very specific language here because we feel that that's a very important piece to us moving forward together in partnership. So rather than talk about specific attributes in the beginning, we need to talk about our destination values. Ecotourism, history, arts and culture, and wellness are ones that we've touched upon, but probably haven't been given the priorities that they deserve in terms of our back and forth conversation when I'm at the podium. But I hope that this articulates and visually shares that we have been listening. But I will also say these are elements or values that we have and will continue to put into our marketing materials. But what we are going to do going forward is make sure that you are seeing those on a regular basis through our updates and our communication efforts. And we have spoken at length, and I'll be respectful of time, but our efforts within ecotourism, how do we build upon those? How do we take the rich history and culture that we have here and bring those stories forward and communicate to you the things that we're putting in place, so on and so forth. As attributes, we will continue to talk about recreation, culinary, biking, retail, meetings and groups, weddings, golf, and tennis, and everyone's new favorite, pickleball. Has everybody tried pickleball? It's addictive. So we're very excited about those attributes, but again, they will be supported through our destination DNA, which are our values that you see there. The timeline that's in place, we have a few new elements in that list there that were not there in years prior. And Councilman Brown, you spoke to some of those, and we're so excited to be able to work with you at length and at depth in terms of these presentations and these conversations. So these are the new timelines. We will end up putting that final plan in front of you digitally until final approval on June 30th. But let's get to the really working pieces of what the marketing plan, after the values and our core attributes, what we will really talk about and move forward within the plan. The overarching goal, and again, working closely with our marketing council and our town staff and hearing all the pieces of feedback that we're getting, that we want to ensure that the overarching goal for destination marketing is to ensure and drive qualified visitation to the destination. The new number one, develop and implement a community cornerstone plan, is the newest piece to this year's plan. The 5 remaining underneath are the ones that you saw last year, but they are multi-year efforts that we feel that we can continue to grow on and get deeper and more and develop more for you. And so I will focus on number 1 as we move forward, but please understand that's the newest one. The 5 underneath it, number 2 through 6, the ones that were presented in last year's plan, and again, collectively agreed upon with not only our marketing council, but the town as it was approved. So develop and implement a community cornerstone plan. This is the newest iteration of that, and we're very excited to bring this forward. There has been a lot of hard work done by the town, ourselves, in bringing this community cornerstone plan to life. It is a multi-year plan. Underneath it itself, you will have 5 strategies. The piece that I just dropped off to you earlier does outline that, and so I will let you go through that at length, and I'm hopeful to have deeper conversations on each one of these. But as you talk through building and implementing the cornerstone plan, we'll have foster effective and inclusive community collaboration. attract extraordinary talent, diversify the visitor and local experience year-round, modernize island capital investment and venue capabilities for the future, and improve mobility and connectivity to support local businesses. Each one of these strategies has tactics, owners, there's multiple owners within each tactic, and there's years in which those will be completed or projected completion. And so with that, that was what you'll find that detail within your plan. We're excited to hold hands and move forward with those strategies that are specific to the Cornerstone Plan alongside all of our out marketing, which are remainder 2 through 5 that we saw on the previous screen. So it is comprehensive, but please note the most important piece of our conversation today is that community is first. Residents are first. We listened, and we've listened closely and understand that the priorities are responsible tourism, residents, and community first, and that we will do that going forward in partnership. We've also put forward the proposed budget and working very closely with Mr. Troyer here in the town, as well as Ray Deal here in partnership to get to this projected number based on information we received from the town and their projections and our projection here. That is also in your packet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to hold the questions or comments from the dais, open the floor to the public. Anyone want to make comments on this particular item? No? Okay. We have made some opening comments. We've received some very good information, and we look forward to continue the conversation. So
Thank you, sir.
Yep,
Yes, thank you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, in the sake of time here, I'm going to ask staff that we come forward with the impact fee piece.
Perfect, yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Just to kind of bring everybody back up to speed on this item, this is a matter that had previously been through the committee last year, had been pending before town council. At the town council meeting, there were several novel questions that were raised regarding the program, how it would be carried out, and ultimately the request was made by council to send this matter back to the committee for additional information. As a kind of a background information, I think it's important to note the town is operating under a current impact fee agreement with Beaufort County, wherein we collect traffic, parks and recreation, and library impact fees. And the county's ordinance and the study that's the supporting basis for that ordinance is now almost 16 years old, which pursuant to the requirements of state law is likely too long in order to remain valid. And so the county several years ago began the process of updating their underlying study and just recently adopted their new impact fee ordinance. In order for the town to participate under that ordinance, we would have to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with Beaufort County. And so that is what is before you today, is consideration of entering into that intergovernmental agreement. Based upon the previous conversations with the committee and council, staff is recommending that we do not pursue a Parks and Recreation impact fee at this time. If we are successful in acquiring the land swap that has already been approved by council, essentially the town will wind up owning all of the Parks and Recreation parcels that are located on Hilton Head. And once that's done, the town council can pursue their own impact fee ordinance for Parks and Recreation if they so choose. That leaves us with the library impact fees and the traffic impact fees. Again, the library impact fees are pretty straightforward. They're only applicable to the library here on Hilton Head. So the monies that are collected here remain here, and they go towards the capital improvement plans that have been proposed and adopted by the library. In terms of the traffic impact fee, and that's where I want to spend just a couple of minutes, because those were really where the questions, I think, centered in terms of when this matter came forward before. The first question centered around how the impact fees will be collected. With the county essentially having the program and the town agreeing to participate, we were initially looking at having a situation where either through a portal or some other kind of use of technology, having the ability for citizens to basically go online to be able to apply and pay for their permits. That ultimately has proven to not be possible, and so in order to ensure that Hilton Head residents and businesses do not need to go to multiple locations in order to get permits and pay for their fees, the town is proposing to retain control of administering and collecting the impact fees on the county's behalf. That way, individuals who are needing to get permits would just come here to the town as they do today and continue to get all of those services in one location and not have to go to multiple areas. The only downside, and I don't know that I would characterize it necessarily as a downside, the only thing to note is that currently the town does receive an administrative fee, which is 5% of the revenue that's collected to offset the cost of providing that. Based upon the county's interpretation of language, which is in the impact fee statutes, they do not believe that that is possible. And so they have eliminated that ability for any of their agreements going forward with any of the other municipalities. So again, we'll retain it, but we would not be able to retain the 5% administrative fee that we currently do retain out of what is collected. The next question dealt with implementing the projects and how they would be prioritized. In meeting with the county and the other municipalities, it was kind of determined that trying to identify a ranked list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of project, given the multiple jurisdictions that are involved, would likely be difficult. In addition to that, the impact fee statutes require that the funds that are collected be allocated or encumbered within a 3-year time frame on a first in, first out basis from when they are collected. Because there is a time constraint that is on these funds, the county wants to be able to do a prioritization where they look at projects that are based upon the shovel readiness of the projects themselves. So therefore, those projects that have had engineering and design work completed are at a tier 1 and are eligible for funding, whereas projects that are only in some level of engineering or design work would be eligible for funding in tier 2, and then those projects in tier 3 would not be eligible for funding. I think what's at the heart of this question is also understanding what town council's role would be in that process. And as staff sees it, there's 2 ways in which town council would be involved. First is, in order to have a project appear on the list of eligible projects, it has to come from an adopted CIP list. So town council, through its adoption and control of its CIP list, controls which projects are eligible for inclusion on there. Additionally, town council also controls which projects we would seek for funding. Included within the backup materials for today is a most recent example where we've sought a little over $3 million in traffic impact fee funding from Beaufort County as part of the adaptive traffic management system. And so again, through both of those, council would be involved in the process, but not to the extent that we would be able to rank individual projects 1 through however many there are. And then lastly, there was a question about the impact of impact fees on workforce and affordable housing. Based upon the language within the Impact Fee Act, it already provides for a waiver of impact fees for qualified affordable housing projects. Based upon the language of the statute, in order to qualify, the project has to be at or below 80% of the area median income. Beaufort County goes a little bit further beyond that. They actually provide a direct subsidy of those impact fees if it is a qualifying project, and then they differentiate the percentage of that subsidy based upon how much of the project is either 60% to 80% of AMI or 60% and under AMI. And so that information is in there because regardless of whether or not it qualifies, impact fees do have to be paid from some place. They cannot be waived outright. It's just they're allowed to be paid from something other than the source if it's a qualified affordable housing project. And so the county does that, assuming that there are budgeted funds available for any of those projects that qualify. So with that, I know the time is growing late. I will be happy to answer any questions you have about what is being presented before you today.
Great.
Mr. Ames?
Yeah, is it your intention to vote on this at this meeting?
Absolutely.
And I would make the motion that this Finance and Administrative Committee approve and pass on to Town Council staff's recommendation.
Second.
Okay, any further questions or discussion from council here? Any public comment on this particular item? Zendaya, would you kindly call the roll?
Certainly. Mr. Stanford?
Yes.
Mr. Ames?
Yes.
Mr. Alford?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Support.
Thank you.
Zendaya, we have two remaining items. It doesn't look like the time is going to allow us to do so, being that we have to get out of the mayor's way to take this dais. So I'd ask that you poll the committee for an additional meeting so we can cover these two items. If that is okay with the committee, I'd entertain a motion to table the remaining items.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Zendaya. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the public. We are adjourned.